I'm Shane Snow. I'm here at the TechBuzz talk show with Frederic from ReadWriteWeb, and we want to say welcome to everybody. I'm Shane. I'm a contributor for Mashable and entrepreneur in New York City, and this is Frederic.
Hey everybody, I'm one of the news writers for ReadWriteWeb. That's my main job right now. I do a few reviews now and then, but mostly breaking news stories.
Infographics essentially are journalism and graphic design, mixed together. It's a creative way of displaying information, and and there is a lot of sort of this info spam that I call it that sort of makes me uncomfortable when, as an infographic designer, I'm trying to do legitimate things and source them well, have good, sort of journalistic integrity to them, and not have sort of the ulterior motive of, getting SEO links to some unrelated topic. So I think infographics are another way to sort of capture attention and to get people to digest information quickly. But that said, I mean, there's, like we were saying, there's the spam issue as well. What makes a good infographic is something that has lots of numbers and data that would be hard to sort of wade through if you were reading it, represented well, drawn well so that it's quicker to understand it. I mean, I think that's the key to a good infographic is the speed that you can understand the concept. Data-driven infographics are better than just text infographics.
Now, for the most part, is what's going to happen to Digg? Is it ever going to get back to where it used to be, or are people just going to be over at Reddit all day long, where they really profited from the problems that Digg had in the last couple of weeks?
I've been to Reddit more since Digg has been down, but I feel like I'm not as much in. I felt more part of the community in Digg, and I haven't been integrated as much in Reddit yet. I do check it more. That was a question, something I was thinking of today when I was on the train, is what if Digg rolled back to version 3? If they're like, all right, guys, this was a terrible idea. Let's just sort of take that free state of right before we launched Digg 4 and just like put it back to that. Do you think people would come back, or do you think people are like, you've blown it?
I'm afraid they have blown it. I think a lot of people have left. If you look at the comment section these days, there's barely 20, 30 comments on stories that used to get 200, 300. So I'm afraid a lot of the community is just gone at this point. That doesn't mean they can't come back. I know that Digg itself is just not able to roll back to V3 at this point anymore. There's some technical issues, I guess. They've just rolled it over and there's no way of getting back. But they are bringing back a lot of the old features. Kevin Rose, the stuff he talked about over at TechCrunch Disrupt earlier this week, it seems like his hope is to make Digg a way more mainstream platform than it's ever been. And I'm really skeptical about that. I think that train might have left the station for Digg at this point. But, if he's got high hopes, it's good for him, I guess.
From Melissa Westrick. Thanks for the question. Thoughts on the Facebook film? Is it healthy to turn Zuck into a prophet? I really loved it. I really loved the film. It made out, I mean, I can see how if I were Mark Zuckerberg, I would not want to watch the movie because I'd be terrified of how they're going to portray me. Is it healthy to turn him into a prophet? I don't know. You can clearly see they make him out to be a genius and kind of a dick at once in the film, and whether or not all of it is true, I don't know because I haven't met the guy, but I didn't get the feeling that he's some visionary. I think he's just very driven and hardworking is sort of what I got out of the film's portrayal of Mark Zuckerberg. I didn't get any feeling that he's sort of a seer into what's next in technology, just that he is was able to pick up on this trend and ride it and work very hard for it. We were talking a little bit before the show about the TechCrunch acquisition, which is definitely the big news this week in tech. Let's talk a little bit about it. Tell me how you feel about it, what you think of the deal, and what do you think is going to happen to TechCrunch and AOL next.
It'll be interesting to see what happens now under AOL, and we've been obviously thinking about that as well, and I think TechCrunch is just going to stay TechCrunch just the way Engadget stayed Engadget when it went over to AOL and the other blogs, the other web blogs.
TechCrunch is it's a blog, it's online journalism, and it just sold for 25 to 40 million, whatever the numbers people are throwing around, and I think that's that's a great sort of victory for journalism. That a reminder that journalism is not dead, and that blogging is a legitimate way to bring news to people and to make a living. And
let's do that. We've got a really loaded question here. Jason Grover is asking us if the huge number of blogs and updates lead to less credibility and quality for journalism.
I don't think that the huge number of blogs and updates leads to less quality, because the competition breeds quality, but credibility. I mean, and maybe to some degree, competition breeds credibility. People that are really credible will surface to the top. I definitely think that the general rap for journalism, or in journalism, is that blogging is less credible. And maybe the huge number of crappy blogs adds to that. The huge number of people that fire off, rumors as if they're the real deal, and going back to the infographics thing, the huge number of people ripping off other people's infographics, posting them as their own, or ripping off other people's content.
I'm still a big believer in the fact that the good stuff will rise to the top, and the really crappy bad stuff is gonna just disappear somewhere in the never world of the internet, where nobody sees it except for maybe some SEO spammer. That's my hope. But yeah, I mean, I definitely also see that we've got a lot of blogs that just don't post really good stuff. That's boring, that's ripped off, that's not researched. I mean, this pressure to be really fast and get stories out faster than everybody else, and that often leads to people just not really thinking about what they're writing, and that to me is a problem. So yes, there is the fact that it's not so much the number of updates, but the fact that you got to get your updates out really fast is a major problem, I think, especially in the tech blogosphere.
There, for a while, I feel like with a lot of social media platforms, especially stuff where you're sharing, there's sort of a plateau. Like when I got on Twitter, I would tweet 20 times a day, and then I sort of dropped off, and now I maintain a nice 2 times a day or 5 times a week or whatever. And I think a lot of people experience that same sort of excitement and hype, and you're like, oh, this is big, and I don't really know why I'm doing this so much. There's like still a little of utility in it. But the same thing has happened to me with Foursquare. I only check in when it's a new place, or it's a place that I feel like I need some tips. I think that they're trying to pivot and to keep it going so that it's useful to the core audience that it maybe is getting a little bit tired. So yeah, we'll see. Yeah. I mean, I'm interested to see what it looks like in a year from now. With the mobile web as it is progressing, will it be eventually the way we use the web?
It's not going to be the web, but I've got a feeling in 2-3 years it might just be, for a lot of people, the #1 way they're going to access the web. It kind of depends on how you define mobile. Even is a tablet mobile, then I think definitely we're going to get to a point where that's a major entry ramp on the web. I don't think laptops and desktops are going to go away, and the standard browser web that we have today is going to disappear completely. But I think we'll see a huge focus on I'm also thinking about developing countries where it's already the fact that the web is mobile, that's the main way to access the web. So as more and more of people in those countries come online, it becomes a real imperative for developers to make sure they've got a way for all of these folks to access their stuff, even on really basic smartphones or maybe even feature phones.
All right. Well, thank you to everyone who joined in on the show and who asked questions. It was really great meeting you, Frederic, and big shout out to Vokle for putting this on. Really great system for doing these talk shows, and had a lot of fun. And yeah,
absolutely.
Have a good day. Goodbye, everybody.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.